I was reading an article in Tablet magazine, and by the way, I always think that I won't need my glasses, but I somehow end up needing my glasses, and so we're going to the Tablet magazine article. There goes my ADD too, because I had another tab up. And anyway, let's see. So I'm looking. Oh, you know what? I shared it on Twitter, so I can just go ahead and go to the link that way. As I said, me and my ADD. Anyway, so we're looking at an article here, and it talks about how Ed Koch, it says, maybe I can take my glasses off. Okay, I can take my glasses off. In the face of the mayor's okay, here we go. In face the mayor's relationship to Catholics, that engagement with Catholicism ran so deeply that some worried about his beliefs and whether they were easily categorized as people assumed. The mayor's sincere belief in God and in an afterlife was strongly shaped by the influence of the church, and it was in the church's language that he talked to them. When this came up in an interview in 1999, the late Tim Russert asked the mayor, this is referring to Mayor Koch, if he ever considered converting. I'm a proud Jew, he said. Then he dropped the subject. You never really know what's in a man's heart, reminds Patrick Mulhern, who served as the mayor's counsel for 6 years, and his confidant for many more. But if you're trying to suggest that Ed was a kind of secret Catholic, forget it. There were so many levels to Ed's relationship with the church. It is certainly true that he forged some strong personal friendships there. But it was also the case that the city needed the church to deliver health and education services, currying favor with the Irishmen's votes. So much of it was just smart politics. I will say this, however, Ed had a deep appreciation for the consolation that the church provided in times of tragedy. He saw it all at the funerals that he attended for fallen cops and firefighters. And then the quote goes on. But he says at the end, in a word, he had a great respect for the church. But again, you never know. Ed Koch may have been a secret Catholic. And I say that, I'm not saying that Ed Koch was, but I'm saying that because, as I said in my tweet, anti-Messianics make people who are like Ed Koch possibly was afraid to say that. And I remember, as I said, when I was afraid to disclose to the so-called rabbi that I was Messianic, and I only did that because I didn't want to be found out later and accused of being an infiltrator and a proselytizer. And, you know, as I said in my video that I put up recently, if you ever go to Hillel, never disclose that you're Messianic or a Karaite or anything else that doesn't follow the so-called rabbinical model, because, for lack of a better term, you're going to get your butt kicked for it, and you're going to find out the hard way that the so-called rabbis want nothing more than power, and if they can't win the argument, they're going to try to do everything that they can to, instead of attacking what they consider the problem, they'll attack the person. And I come from Jewish, Catholic, and Protestant backgrounds, so I can speak to this. And as someone said, Pharisee or so-called rabbinical Judaism is the Catholicism of Judaism. And he's exactly right, because the so-called rabbis and the Catholic Church for many years did exactly to Protestants and to Karaites what I talked about. They attacked the people, not what they considered a problem. They would lie about them. They would lie about what they said. They would try to intimidate them. They would try to go after their friends. I mean, even looking at the marital record of trying to think of his relationship to me, I guess you could say my great-great-granddad's granddad, he was quote-unquote acquitted to marry, which means he had to go through a tribunal before he was proved Catholic enough to marry, because he was a Jew, and that's very scary to have to go through a tribunal to prove that you're Catholic enough. But that's what the Catholic Church did. They did inquisitions, they did pogroms, they did all kinds of other stuff. And the same thing with the so-called rabbinical Jews. You're seeing it now. You're seeing it with Hillel, Outreach Judaism, Merkaz, Yad L'Achim, and groups like that. And you saw it when, I don't care if I get in trouble for naming her either. Her name is Emily Katz Bowling. She contacted me on my public Facebook page, and a link that I actually meant to share publicly, or that I shared publicly enough, because let's face it, I shared it with friends of friends, and it could have gotten around easily. And anyway, the article is public, and I had said something good about the UMBC and JSU Hillel. My mistake, because she twisted my Lashon Tov, which was saying that non-Orthodox Jews do care about Shavuot, and I gave UMBC Hillel and JSU as an example, into something negative that I never said in that comment about Jason. I never implied in that comment that being Reconstructionist is negative, although since Emily brought that up, I clearly said to her, and I'll read it to you while we're at it. Let's see if I can find it in my feed, because people are reading it, and hey, you know what? The word's getting out there, and I want the word to get out there. I want other people to learn what I had to learn the hard way before they fall into the hands of the so-called rabbinates. And I even said to her, I was very clear on the issue. I said, where is it? I said, firstly, I was saying that I found her comment, that is the article's author's comment, highly problematic. I even said out straightly, and then you can read a quote, but I had said, look, even the kosher corner there closes throughout the Shavuot holiday, so they care about Shavuot. That's what I was saying, and I said to her, and this is where I was talking about bringing it up, I said, secondly, while we're on this subject, and since you brought it up, I am not the only one who has had issues with Jason. I will, out of respect for him or her, not say who. And I'll never say who, because I know that that person has been just as persecuted as me. I know that UMBC and JSU Hillel would love to go after that person as they've gone after me. And I had to assert my legal rights in order to get what I was saying protected from being hate speech. And of course now, Emily and whoever else was backing her obviously saw that I asserted my legal rights per Schwimmer, per Tinker, and I used a few other cases in there as well too. Let's see, I'm trying to, because I put the whole disclaimer there. Let's see, when I went to use the disclaimer, I asserted various cases, including, what did I assert? Because I asserted so many cases. Okay, I asserted Schwimmer, Tinker. Those were the two I asserted in particular, and then I asserted the First, 9th, and 14th Amendment to the Constitution. And what I'm saying, though, is that I may not even have those legal rights someday, because look at where our country's going. But I'm saying that if you look at the actions of the so-called rabbinates and the actions of the Catholic Church for years with the Inquisition and the pogroms and other actions like that, and now with the so-called rabbinates having groups like Yad L'Achim, even going after people like Nehemiah Gordon, because he has talked about the quote-unquote religious police. It's as my friend said. Sorry about that. That's also what happens when you get heartburn while you're talking, but anyway. So, as my friend said, I'm trying to remember exactly what he said, but he said, Rabbinic Judaism is the Catholicism and Judaism. By the way, he's a Karaite, and no, he's not Nehemiah. He's someone else, but he's exactly right. And so, I mean, that was the whole point of the video. That is, I was trying to compare Pharisaism and Catholicism, and I was trying to prove how my friends quote that Pharisaism and Catholicism are parallel in terms of, you know, they have a lot of equivalence. Anyway, I think you get my point, and, well, there you go. I think at this point, I think I made my point. I think that I've given examples. I think that there you go. I've made the point that maybe Ed Koch was afraid to maybe he was afraid to say that he was, you know, a Jewish Catholic as he was because, you know, of how the so-called Rabbinates can be, that Rabbanism, or so-called Rabbanism, really Pharisaism, because Jesus says that the only rabbi is him, that so-called Rabbinism and Catholicism are basically equivalents of each other, and that Rabbanism, or so-called Rabbanism, and Catholicism are basically use the same tactics for a while, although in many ways the Catholic Church still does it. They attack the person as opposed to what they perceive to be the problem. That was my whole point. And I know that sometimes people get a little lost with the way that I talk and, you know, try to give examples and connect everything. But there you go. And, oh, I was trying to see where I was recording, because, like, I was, you know, trying to face the camera, and then it's like, I had other tabs up, but yeah, there you go.